Phineas and Ferb is making a comeback this summer, and alongside the boys' brand new adventures is the return of Dr. Doofenshmirtz, embracing his status as a supervillain. But wait, I thought Doof threw in the towel after the last day of summer. He had a whole redemption! We even saw him reformed in Milo Murphy's Law. He was bumming it on Milo's couch for a bit. What the hell is going on? Well, I think I have the answer. Let's dive in. The best place to start would be with the timeline between the end of Season 4 and the new season. If you didn't really keep up with Phineas and Ferb's later years, then you may have no idea Doof even quit his life of supervillainy. But not only did he put up the lab coat, metaphorically at least, he even fought alongside Perry the Platypus for a bit. You see, in the last day of summer, Doofenshmirtz finally conquered the tri-state area. Not in a big and scary way like the Doof from the second dimension. He just invented an innator that created the position of tri-governor and let good old democracy handle the rest. While this was always his dream, he was driven to do this at the tail end of summer after learning Vanessa's moving in of her mother full-time, assuming it's because he's not cool enough, and that finally taking over the tri-state area will win over his daughter's affection for good. In reality, Vanessa has to move out of her dad's because he's number 3 on Alka's Most Wanted, and she just scored an internship with them. Vanessa then appeases her father by pointing out that he sucks at being evil, and he's only been committed to it because of his terrible upbringing and need for validation, setting the stage for Doof to turn a new leaf as he seemingly leaves his evil ways behind. Shortly after summer ends, Doofenshmirtz is hired as a science teacher at Danville High. This decision was actually a compromise made in court thanks to Doof's many run-ins with the law. It's a form of community service so that he can avoid prison. So although he's technically retired, he hasn't quit that lifestyle cold turkey, which is pretty realistic. It's hard cutting out vices. While teaching at Danville High, Doofenshmirtz is also under heavy surveillance by Principal Lang, who's eager to catch Doof in the act of something evil, like a pissed-off parole officer who wants the people he works with to fail.
He wound up marrying Charlene, the girl that I was in love with.
Aren't they divorced now?
That's not the point.
Doof would have another full-on relapse during Phineas and Ferb's Christmas vacation, putting Danville's Christmas in jeopardy with the Naughty-inator, landing all of its citizens on the naughty list. Though thankfully, Phineas, Ferb, and South Tuscany are able to nip this problem in the bud. My biggest takeaway here is that when school isn't in session and he has nothing to keep himself busy, Doof is prone to indulging in villainy. Since he's teaching out of obligation, he's still searching for his newfound purpose, and ends up working as a secret agent at Alka, rubbing shoulders with Agent P and all sorts of animals, as seen in the Alka files. I guess being an Alka agent didn't work out for him though, as the next time we see Doofenshmirtz in Milo Murphy's Law, it appears he's no longer on Alka's payroll. If they even get paid. I think they're exploiting these pets for free labor. Monogram, you bastard! During Milo Murphy's Law, we discovered that in 15 years' time, Doof is destined to invent time travel and take on the mantle of Professor Time. You know, for branding purposes. But because Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated gets destroyed in the Phineas and Ferb effect crossover, Heinz ends up bumming it at the Murphy residence for a while. No longer evil, and it's unknown if he's still teaching. It's also worth noting that in Act Your Age, the episode set at the end of Phineas and Ferb's time in high school, Doofenshmirtz is struggling to keep himself entertained, inducing a midlife crisis with an innator solely so he can try to fit in with people his age. Which is a choice, one that he ends up regretting. All of this brings us to the new season of Phineas and Ferb, where Doofenshmirtz informs his non-existent social media following that he's returning to the evil lifestyle, meaning that by the time the next summer rolls around, he's officially rebuilt DEI. Fuck, they made it woke! And he no longer resides with the Murphys. So now that we're all caught up, I'm hoping that they'll build upon all of these wild antics Doof has been involved in instead of ignoring them. I don't think it's a coincidence that his return to evil lines up with summer vacation, especially when everything that takes place after the first summer has leaned into the fact that he struggles to keep himself entertained when left to his own devices, and that often leads to his evil antics. I suspect that with summer starting up and school being out of session, Doofenshmirtz is now out of a job for 104 days. So what does he do to keep the lights on? The same thing he's always done. Chasing the high of trying to conquer the tri-state area. I suspect that Doofenshmirtz is evil again because it's his summer job, even though I have no idea how he makes money from it. But really, I do think Doofenshmirtz constantly going in and out of villainy is more or less a take on addiction. Even if he wants to get better and become someone who stands for good, it's not a switch he can just flick in his brain. The temptation to be evil is always going to be there, and it makes sense he'd go back and forth and unfortunately relapse a few times, especially since he's usually alone, save for Norm. Now of course, Phineas and Ferb isn't going to portray this as some dark, depressing matter, because 1, it's a kid show. Even when the humor's a little cynical, the tone manages to retain a strong sense of whimsical optimism. And 2, Doof's pain and suffering is almost always portrayed as a joke. They're not gonna switch it up now. They'd most definitely lean more into him being bored as a reason for his relapse than him just being a lost cause who's incapable of change. We know that's not true. And if they don't want to run with the summer job angle, it's possible he just finished his community service now that the school year is over. Or he quit. Maybe teaching a classroom full of teenagers turned him evil again. Maybe he got fired, turning the principal into a frog on the way out and going all in on being evil from there. Or maybe they'll just go from being lonely and deciding to become evil again for the summer because he thought about how much fun he had with Perry last summer, creating innators and fighting this domesticated platypus that is both his rival and his best friend. Basically, just returning to evil for the love of the game. Any of these solutions would be acceptable answers that make sense. I just hope they don't ignore all of his lore from outside the show or episodes set further in the future. There's a decent chance they will, since Milo Murphy's Law wasn't the most popular show on Disney XD. I'm assuming most people who grew up with Phineas and Ferb didn't watch it, let alone be aware of its existence. Like, let's really think about how huge Phineas and Ferb was, and how vastly underrated Milo is. Sorry to say, but most people who were watching Disney Channel in 2007, 2008 have no idea that this show exists. So I could see Dan and Swampy not wanting to adhere to the continuity of a sister show that's ultimately irrelevant. But at the same time, I would like for them to respect all their hard work and acknowledge Doof's role on Milo Murphy's Law in some capacity. Because I think forcing Phineas and Ferb synergy into that show's second season, only for them to turn around and act like none of it ever happened, is annoying! This is your chance to get Milo's streaming numbers up. Don't disappoint me, Dan and Swampy. Plus, Milo is still like stuck in space or something, so some kind of resolution there would be nice. He was on one of the posters with a new design, so here's hoping. Of course, we know the real reason why Doof is evil again. The reason that goes beyond the show's writing. And that's the fact that Disney isn't gonna let them bring back Phineas and Ferb without the iconic B stories that Doof and Barry provide. It's way less off-putting to nostalgic 20-somethings and newcomers alike to just have Doof be evil again, instead of developing a new dynamic that requires context if you're just dropping in on a random episode. It's unfortunate, and it undoes the impact of his arc in the finale. But that's capitalism at work, baby! This show is going to outlive all of us, isn't it? But there you have it. As always, these are just my thoughts, and I'd love to hear yours. Why do you think Doof is evil again? Are you mad they're undoing his development, or do you not really care? Let's get a conversation going in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please sure to like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Peace!
What we do here is go back.
Need something to throw on while you draw, study, or sleep? Roundtable Rewind's got you covered. So why not take a stroll down memory lane and subscribe?
No one can tell me what to do.
See you there.